And now let's move on to the Diamondbacks, who they haven't had the greatest start. And I'm wondering, as you mentioned at the top of the show, Will, this is your National League champions from last year, and they exceeded expectations crazily. I had posed the question in the pre-show: are they going to fail because of their high expectations now? Like, nobody expected them to make the World Series last year. A lot of people didn't expect them to make the playoffs last year, and now they have all these expectations on them. And I just wonder, like, it was this almost a given that this could happen or is happening right now?
I wouldn't say it was a given that was going to be their fate, but I do think there's a chance. I mean, I don't want to say for sure that they're failing to live up to expectations because when I look at like the offense, they're second in baseball in runs scored. They are coming through in clutch situations and timely hitting because they're not leading in home runs. They're not in the top half. They're barely in the top half in slugging percentage. They're among the league leaders in strikeouts as a team. So the fact that they are second in runs, ninth in MLB in average, I believe we talked ahead of time, their team batting average with runners in scoring position is 300.
Yeah.
So the offense is able to manufacture runs and give themselves good chances to win games. The problem for them for a lot of the season was that their bullpen was horrible. It was giving up not like a couple runs in it here and there. They would blow, it felt like 4 or 5 run leads multiple times a week. It was crazy. And now that Seawald is not in the is hurt, he's not closing for them right now, and they're relying on Ginkle there was just a lot of questions about like who could step up and who could be that back end protection they need. Now, granted, their ERA is starting to come back down to earth more, even though they're still middle of the pack baseball wise among ERAs. Their bullpen ERA, I calculated yesterday, is 4.22. That's not horrible. Team ERA is 4.03. That if you finish the season with that, you'd feel okay. They got a little lucky last year in that they finished with 84 wins and made the postseason. I don't think anyone would have told you before the season started that the third wildcard team would have only 84 wins, let alone I think the Marlins were the second wildcard team with 84 wins. So they were able to sneak in that way. If they can keep up what they're doing offensively, their pitching, especially in their starting rotation, is really starting to trend in the right direction. It's a bummer that Merrill Kelly is out for them right now. As a Phillies fan, big tear in my eye. But Zach Gallen, and now Jordan Montgomery is on the team and has had a couple good starts under his belt. They're starting to. They could have a very strong pitching staff, even with the loss of Eduardo Rodriguez, which I don't even know what his timetable is right now. He was injury prone entering the team, but it seemed like it still might be fine that they had him because he didn't need to be the top guy. You had a couple guys in front of him in the rotation, and then you brought on Montgomery. But right now they're starting to see that, hey, Rodriguez is a wild card. He can be really good when he's healthy, which has been not at all in 2024. I do think the Diamondbacks will struggle a bit in the long haul. Corbin Carroll will get better as he is below the Mendoza line and is acting like he doesn't know how to play baseball anymore. But you have like Ketel Marte and Blaze Alexander, who's stepping up for them and helping carry that team. Yeah, very much. But I mean,
who Blaze or Ketel?
Blaze Alexander is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
He's batting over.
Ketel Marte's done his thing for a while now.
Well, I was gonna say, like, because I was gonna bring this up about Ketel Marte, but this seems like a good time. When are we gonna give Ketel Marte the respect he deserves as like one of the best players in baseball? Because he's been doing this for a while, and once again, he's doing it for them. And I know that I think in recent years she's gotten a little more, I guess, activity from the media because the Diamondbacks have started to get a little bit better. But I swear, dude, man, this guy is like consistently batting at the top of the leaderboards by the end of the year. And I feel like he's not talked about as like other players are. I really don't like in terms of the value he brings to his team. A lot of other players, and maybe it's just the market. Honestly, it might just be because Arizona, but a lot of these other players are getting talked about so highly. When Ketel Marte, he's been there, he's done that, and he's so good for them, and he's good every single year. Like
Yeah.
we go through this every single year. It's like, oh, whatever. Like coming into the season, what's going to
He has
happen with the
not been
Diamondbacks?
completely consistent. He's
I
had a
understand.
lot of good flashes, but
Yeah.
he's like the postseason last year, especially the championship series and even the World Series, even though they lost. He outshone everyone, was clutching the biggest of moments, and that's something that he is clearly riding into this season. Dating back to 2019 when he had his breakout year at 329, 32 home runs, 92 RBIs, finished fourth in the National League in MVP voting. 2020 was 2020. He batted 287 though, good for him. 2021 he had injury issues, but he batted 318 with 14 home runs and 50 RBIs. Was young at the time. Probably that was one of those flags that you would say, does this mean he's injury prone? Don't know. 2022 though, he really struggled. He only batted 240 with 12 home runs playing in 137 games. And then last year he put up a solid 276, 25 home runs, 82 RBIs. I think Ketel Marte is the type of player. He's about a 270, 280 hitter, gives you mid 20s in home runs, which from a second base position is far exceeding expectations most of the time. And now he's proven to be a clutch guy. I won't say he is one of the top players. I won't say he's one of the top 20 players in baseball. But I will say if you want a consistently good second baseman that can give you some solid offensive production, you can rely on him for that.
I just feel like anytime you look at the one of the Diamondbacks have had success, who has it been? It's been Ketel Marte. Like he has been so clutch for them, and maybe that's what's skewing it for me because I'll see highlights of him. I'm like, oh, guess who saved the day again for the Diamondbacks, Ketel Marte, and he's been so versatile throughout his career, in terms of kind of where they've been playing him and stuff like that. Again, the start of the year he's had this year has been great. He's batting over 300. We'll see if
I
he
think it's
can keep
also the
that up, but.
position. It's also
I
the
mean,
position there.
but I feel, and now I think he's more set in stone. But he's been moved around a lot with them, right? And like, I just feel like
Mhm.
again if you're talking about what a player brings to a team, like I'm not saying he's an MVP candidate, but I'm saying when you're talking about who's most valuable to their team across the league, like for me, honestly, Ketel Marte is up there. He just feels like he is the clear engine for that team, and again, similar to what the Padres have with Tatis and Machado. When he's doing his thing, when he's hitting well for them in the meaty part of their lineup, they are going to succeed. So again, just a little Ketel Marte love there. I know we kind of went off track, but I just wanted to put that out there
Well,
because he's been a favorite of mine.
Well, I think for him it's a little different because for him he is the heart and soul. It's obvious there. Well, for the Padres situation, it's not obvious, and that's the difference there. And I think it's the market. I think it's the I think it's the position. Second basemen don't get a lot of love. They don't get paid big bucks. Like it's not consistent there in terms of how that position is portrayed in terms of star power. I mean, the most famous second baseman right now is Jose Altuve, and that's because he's on the modern
Well,
dynasty that is the Houston Astros.
yeah.
Um,
Has been
so
dynasty.
well, we'll cover them at a different time. That's next month's issue. Anyway, in terms of the position you have, that's also a factor in terms of him getting his star power. And honestly, last season in the playoffs and in the World Series, I was like, oh, okay, all
Yeah.
right, where they been
Learn
keeping
the
this
name.
guy?
Yeah, exactly. Learn the
Where's
damn
he
name.
been?
Yeah, and again, he's been great for them. And now you do have other complementary pieces there in Arizona where you feel like he doesn't have to be a star. I mean, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. He's been great for them. Christian Walker. One guy that he's having a decent start to the year, but I'm wondering when that pop is going to come in too. Is Jock Peterson? He was a big time, or I should say, he was an under the radar signing this offseason that I thought was going to have a big splash. He's batting 296, but only the 2 home runs. So man, if he gets things going, that's going to be scary for them. But Will, as you mentioned, they've been so banged up this season, and now Merrill Kelly's out for the year, or sorry, not out for there. He's out for, I think they said, at least a month. I don't know what exactly he has going on. Gerardo Perdomo's been out. Alec Thomas has been out. Paul Sewald's out. So, like, in your opinion, is this a team that's just kind of getting crunched by the injury bug right now? And maybe that's also a reason why they're struggling?
I think the bullpen had some question marks about it. It was a solid bullpen that led them through the postseason, getting hot at the right time. There wasn't really too many people you could 100% rely on, and bullpens do have a tendency to really drastically change year after year unless you have people that you know for sure have really solid track records. The Seawald injury absolutely hurt them because that put people in bad situations, and Miguel Castro is out now, John's favorite player as an Oriole. But
Hey, former Oriole.
I think the one area they had some depth in was the starting rotation aspect. They had a lot of young guys that didn't perform well last year. A lot of them were kind of pushed to the bullpen this time, and now with the injuries in the rotation, they're getting their chances again there. So I do feel like starting rotation wise, the team will be fine for the rest of the season. The bullpen, though, is that one I'm really not sure about.
Yeah, again, we'll have to kind of see how it goes for them because, as you said, Seawald was such a big piece for them. Well, I do want to talk about, we mentioned him briefly earlier, and John, I'll take this one to you. Corbin Carroll was the breakout star for the Diamondbacks last year. He has not had a good year to start off. I mean, he's batting 189. The on base percentage isn't much better. This is a guy that, we talk about the supporting cast for Marte and all this, or the just their talent in general. This is a guy you'd expect to come through. I mean, what is your take on him right now? Because this is not what I expected after what we've seen from him last postseason.
It is a rough start to the current reigning NL Rookie of the Year. And honestly, I hope that he can turn it around for his sake because he's one of those stars that, would be any team would be lucky to have. When it comes to Corbin Carroll, he has speed throw. It's, I'm not going to say he's a 5 tool, but he's, definitely a 4. So right at the moment, you gotta look at it like this. He's got to turn it around. He's got to get more consistent, and that's just been his issue here to start the season. Especially when you look at his not only his batting average, but also his on base percentage, his slugging percentage. Like he's not, he's not. It's been a rough start. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Yeah, offensively, it's just he needs to get better, hands down.
His on base isn't terrible from his average, though.
Well, from his average, but
yeah,
maybe one of the things I don't know for sure because I don't watch a lot of Diamondbacks games, but at least looking at his stat line, he's got 15 walks in the first month of the season. That's a ton. He's basically on pace to try to push 100 walks for a full season. So the only two things I can think of are, one, people are finally realizing that he is a threat based on what he was last year, and not all the lineup is behind him. I wish I had a rough Diamondbacks lineup in front of me because I know players like Gabriel Moreno are not doing as hot right now, so they might be pitching around him, and he's taking walks more, but also maybe he's trying to be more selective at the plate. Now he's had a year under his belt. He's, trying to be an even better hitter, and in doing so, he's taking too many pitches and he's walking, therefore, a lot and not swinging at other pitches where maybe last year he was overly aggressive. But the 295 on base, yes, it's not ideal compared to a 189 average, though. He's getting on base more than you would think for someone who's doing that bad. So I think if anything is just showing right now that Corbin Carroll isn't that the best for the team right now. He could do so much better. But offensively, the team's not doing too bad.
Yeah. And again, another electric player, so we'll hope to see if he turns it around. The last question I'll pose to the both of you, John, I'll start with you. with this Diamondbacks teams, as we said, so much potential with this team after what they did last year. What do they need to do to turn it around? And do you think they turn it around? Or do you think they're going to struggle for the rest of this year?
They need to fix the bullpen. I mean, like Will said, it's looking rough. Their offense is consistent, outside of a few guys that can definitely be doing better. But that's across the league here. When it comes to uh, guys that can be doing better. But when you look at the Diamondbacks, it comes down to their pitching, like especially their bullpen. Can they get better? Tommy Henry, I would like to see his ERA come down. Brandon Pfaadt, I'm sorry if I butchered his last name. I would like to see his ERA come down. But other than that, their starters have been good. I mean, it's really their bullpen. You have Scott Magoo, who's, and I'm sure I mispronounced his last name as well. Sorry, Arizona.
I think it's
ERA
McGow.
McGow.
I like Magoo.
I think
They got Mr. Magoo.
Mr. Magoo, let's go. Blind old man
better.
throwing baseballs. No wonder they're getting rocked.
Well, no wonder he has a 7.3 ERA.
Exactly.
I
would
mean,
like
no
to see-
disrespect to the guy, but I love that last name.
I would like to see all their ERAs come down, except for Ryan Thompson, who I think is carrying his weight there. But they've got to get better in the bullpen for sure.
All right, Will, what do you think about this Diamondbacks team?
I think they need to fix the bullpen, like John said. That's the big thing right now. I really don't have much to add on to that. I think their offense will get better as Carroll gets better. A lot of other guys are performing roughly where I expect them to. Christian Walker, I still think, is one of the most underrated first basemen in baseball. He's great defensively, and he consistently hits 30 home runs and around 100 RBIs.
I agree
That
with
being said, with the current situation of how players are performing and how the record is shaping out early on, I am going to say that I don't think they make the postseason anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Again, as we're going to continue to say, it's so tight in that NL West between those three teams. So I think when you're looking at who's going to get a playoff spot, the Phillies are going to, or one of the Phillies or Braves are going to be in it. Historically, it's been the Phillies in the wild card spot. The NL Central is an absolute shit show. You don't know what's happening there. So it really is between those three teams of who is going to kind of break away from that pack and become. And right now, Arizona's struggling. For me, I think they haven't had a great start. And I do have this concept of, okay, I think they definitely overachieved last year. And maybe this was going to happen where they were going to come down a little bit. And now maybe they're feeling the pressure. But man, it's hard for
a World
me to say.
Series, you think?
Well, obviously, but again, even for them to make the playoffs, but to me, it's hard for me to look at that roster and all the talent they brought in over the last 2 years and say they'll miss the playoffs, especially with how the Giants and Padres have just been kind of so. For me, I think the Diamondbacks will start to hit their groove and turn it around.